When we want to talk in very general terms, referring to what people say or do, we use impersonal expressions. When we wish to talk about unplanned or unexpected actions in Spanish, we use a specific construction, one which uses elements that we have talked about before in previous classes. The goal is to communicate to our audience that the action was not intended, that we did not mean to do it. However, this is done in completely different ways in every language. English uses implication. You have to read between the lines to know that the action was not intentional. As we will see, in Spanish it is made very clear by the grammatical formula that we use. In both cases, we are going to use the pronoun se. And as we are about to see, se is a real chameleon. Its variety of uses is all over the place. Se is used in impersonal expressions in Spanish as a way of talking in general terms. You probably have seen this usage of se even before you took your first Spanish class. It is a general statement about what one can find. So a sentence like, se compra las piñas en la frutería means that one buys pineapples at the fruit market. Or it can also be interpreted as pineapples are bought at the fruit market. As you can see, this is a very general statement. No one person has been identified or even hinted at. By the way, this is entirely different than using the third person plural, the general they. In fact, the use of the impersonal se is even more impersonal. We generally use the general they in both English and Spanish to refer to an entity. So there is a specific person or persons in mind, but we do not want to name them. For example, trabajo para la universidad. Me pagan bien. In this case, there is a specific entity that pays me, the university. So we use the general they here. Before we talk about how to describe unintentional phrases and how they come together, let's review some of the elements that we need to create these phrases. First, indirect object pronouns. If you recall, they answer the question to or for whom with regard to the action. Or they identify the person who benefits from the action. So in a sentence like, me dieron las llaves, the me is the indirect object. They gave the keys to me. I am the one that benefits from the giving of the keys. Next, impersonal constructions. Remember, we use impersonal expressions when we want to highlight that there is no one person doing the action. So, let's put the pieces together. An impersonal action plus someone who is affected by the action equals unplanned or unexpected actions. So let's see these pieces in action in the formula for unplanned or unexpected events. Take the sentence, se me perdieron las llaves. This sentence literally means the keys were lost to me. But in more colloquial or everyday English, we would say, I lost my keys. Now, in English, the sentence implies that there was no intention to lose the keys. Spanish does not use such implication. The grammar structure conveys the lack of volition. First, the keys are not animate beings, so the impersonal construction is used. This creates quite a bit of distance between the subject, in this case the keys, and the person affected. Next, we need to show the person being affected by the action, meaning we need to show the indirect object. In this case, that is the me in the sentence. Finally, the whole point of using this phrase, I didn't mean to lose the keys. There was no intent on my part. So therefore, I need to create that much distance between me and the action. It's as if the speaker is saying, it wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. One note. Just because the Spanish grammar construction conveys the meaning of "it's not my fault," that does not imply or mean in any way that Spanish speakers do not take responsibility for their actions. In fact, quite the opposite. They take as much responsibility for their actions as English speakers or as anyone else. It simply conveys the same implication that the English speakers mean, that there was no intention or volition of act. They did not mean to do it. How about another example? Mi hermano estaba corriendo y no vio el agua en el piso. Se le resbaló. Clearly, he did not mean to fall. It was an involuntary act. For this reason, we want to use an impersonal construction to create distance, to showcase that there was no intention. And while it may not seem like it from the context, my brother was the one that benefited. Or better put, he was affected by the action. This means that we need an indirect object pronoun to show that it was an action that happened to him. After all, it wasn't his fault. Okay, a couple more examples to show how this phrasing works. Se me rompió mi celular. Now, if you've broken your cell phone before, you know that most likely it was not intentional. It just happened. So we need that impersonal expression to convey that fact. And it happened to me. So that means that we need the corresponding indirect object pronoun. And as we said, it wasn't my fault. One more example. Ay, se me olvidó que había tarea. Clearly, I didn't purposely forget. It just slipped my mind. It just happened that I forgot. The lack of intentionality requires the impersonal expression. Again, it happened to me. So we need the appropriate indirect object pronoun. And remember, it wasn't my fault. Hopefully, after viewing this video, unplanned and unexpected actions, as well as impersonal expressions, are more accessible.